Welcome to another edition of Points of Interest, brought to you by the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. My name is Paul Boucher. I'm the President and CEO of the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. And as we do each week, we present you with the activities going on in the Upper Valley and also have a guest. And we have our guest today is Rich Paul, who is a CPA in the area and will give us a few hints about tax time. And here we are, 1st of March already, and if you've been procrastinating or whatever, or want to know of maybe the new nuances in the tax laws, Paul will enlighten us on those. But we start with the calendar of events in the Upper Valley, and this one of interest to me, Technology Assistance in Lebanon, and this is at the Aging Resource Center, and that's located at Centera Park. And what the program is, get one-on-one help with technology questions. And I'm sure these technologies have to do with the computer and Facebook and Twitter and all of that. And all phones that people have, iPhones and all of that. And so that will be the program. So it might be of interest to those who want to get more into it. 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. This is on Wednesday of this week. And if call ahead for reservations, 653-3460, and it's Technology Assistance in Lebanon. If you want to practice your little singing or your voice, the Valley Chords having an open rehearsal in White River Junction. This is also on Wednesday from 6:15 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. at the United Methodist Church on Gate Streets, and learn the art of singing a cappella music, barbershop style. And I think you'd find it of interest. The phone number is 802-333-4577 if you have more questions on that particular program. We have a couple of book reading seminars that are going on. One here is on Wednesday also, Between the World and Me, and it's a book discussion at the Kilton Library, and that is at 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Kilton Library in West Lebanon, again on Wednesday, and they suggest you register ahead of time, 802-295-5415 for that particular event. We have in White River, they're playing at the Briggs Opera House, Songs from an Unmade Bed. This is on Thursday, and be playing the rest of the week. And a musical that explores love and relationships in and out of the bedroom. Sounds a little risque for the Upper Valley, but if you are interested, you may call 802-698-8325. Friday here in Lebanon, we have fireworks. They've been doing fireworks here for the last 2 or 3 weeks on Friday evening at Stores Hill, which is our ski area that you can see from the downtown, 8 to 8:10, and they call it a short professional show, but the last couple of weeks have been excellent. So if you hear the banging, the booming, it's not thunder, it's fireworks put on by the Lebanon Parks and Recreation Department on Friday. We also have, if you want to get into linguistics or such, we have two seminars, home Italian conversation in Enfield and French conversation in Enfield. The Italian one is on Saturday at 10 a.m. at Mickey's Roadhouse Cafe and 10 a.m. And then the French one is at the Community Lutheran Church from 10 to 11. So if you have two people in the family, one wants to do French, the other one do Italian, they're side by side, they're pretty close, and you both can take those. We also have SCORE, who has a series of workshops, and they're very interesting, having just taken one on QuickBooks. I found it very interesting, and so they have coming up on March 3rd, crowdfunding, on March 10th, business bookkeeping, March 17th, how to compete with the big box stores, and on March 31st, build a website with WordPress. All of these are on Thursdays, and they run from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's the one on Saturday, I'm sorry, and the others are 6 to 9 p.m. during the evening. So the last one is, workshop is on a Saturday, and that's 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pardon me. So that's a SCORE, and they have some great programs. We have on March 3rd at the Lebanon Opera House, Neko Case. It's a acclaimed musician. Neko Case will perform at Lebanon Opera House March 3rd, and he is plays with with a touring band, and been a decade since he. It's a she. I just learned it was her job. Music was in her obsession. So that is March 3rd, Lebanon Opera House. Probably be a sellout, so I would suggest you call 448-0400 to get tickets for that, because it's going to sell out. They've had some excellent programs at the Opera House, and there's more to come, and we'll talk about those as we get closer to the date. They have Peter Rabbit's coming for the kids. That's going to be an April event. Later in March, Johnny Clegg is coming to play. And then we have the Gold City Quartet and the Amoureux Quartet. And that's going to be coming up later on in the month. So we'll talk about those as we get closer to the events. So those are the activities going on in the Upper Valley this coming week. One of the big events affecting the Chamber is that this Friday we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary as a Chamber. The actual date was February 11th, and so on March 4th, this coming Friday, we will have a celebration of the 100th. We have at the Fireside Inn, if anybody is interested in tickets, they can call here at the office for the next couple of days, 448-1203. We have many of the former chair of the boards of the Chamber coming, former Business of the Year, Citizen of the Year, and we have Steve Taylor, who was the former Agriculture Commissioner in New Hampshire from Meriden, and he will give us a history of the Chamber. He did it for us, if you can believe it, for our 75th, 25 years ago, and did a great job, so we're inviting him back. Then followed by Jerry Grimo's 10-piece orchestra. So it's going to be quite an event. We've got a nice meal planned, and it'll be very enjoyable. Again, it's Friday, March 4th, beginning at 6 o'clock at the Fireside. So if you are interested in tickets, please call us here at the office, 448-1203. So our guest today is Rich Paul, who is as I mentioned, an accountant here in the Upper Valley. Paul, Rich, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
So, a little bit about your background, where you came from, and
born in Montana, raised in the Lakes region, Laconia specifically, moved up to Lebanon in 1979, a proud Lebanon graduate. Did my undergrad work at Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then came back and have been a CPA in the Valley since 1990.
So been here a good bit. Now you are on your own.
I am on my own. I run my own practice, Richard Paul CPA, out of White River Junction. I have a staff of 3 people, plus a colleague, Kim Labarge, and we're quite busy this time of year.
I assume, yes, with the tax time. And any major things that we should be looking for, or any things you want to tell us about the tax code and that kind of thing?
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. As you're aware of, Paul Ryan and the Democrats got together this year and have eased filing requirements, especially for the practitioners. They've created a budget which will take us through 2017 at this point. And there are a number of things that were carried over which were thought to have lapsed. The first one being, and I know it's very important as we start to become less fossil fuel dependent, are solar credits. The solar credits have been extended through 16, 17, and beyond. And that credit is 30% of the cost of your unit. Now, you want to check with your tax preparer as well as the state, because the state of New Hampshire also offers a credit on solar equipment as well. And that can be as much as 5 to 7% depending on the system that you have. Now, that cost gets recouped in the terms of credits on your tax return. You'll still end up paying the full freight But those credits can really help you lower your tax bill.
Do you take them all at once or over a period of time?
Well, that's the great thing. If you can't use them all at once, for example, a cost of a solar panel system on your house can range from $20,000 to $50,000. So on a $50,000 project, we're talking a $15,000 tax credit. For most of our viewers out there, they don't have $15,000 of tax liability in a year. So you have the ability to carry forward the credit and use it in future years.
I see. Okay. And any other major changes? Or,
Well, a lot of carry forwards got taken care of. One of the new things for business owners, those of you that run your small business, is that the IRS has expanded the expensing provisions for assets that you buy. Most small businesses have the ability through 2015 to expense fixed assets $500 and below. Now that limit has been raised to $2,000 in 2016. For most small businesses, that means you don't have to depreciate it. You don't have to keep records for it. You can just immediately expense it. And we still have the expensing provision for assets, which allow you to take up to $500,000 of assets, provided you have the profit in your business income.
to do that. So a larger manufacturer would be a big help.
Absolutely. Correct. Right.
One of the things that I want to get back to that solar issue is there's been some talk about limiting the power that can be turned back to or put into the system.
That's correct. That's called net metering.
Yes, net metering. Yeah.
Right. And both New Hampshire and Vermont have net metering limits. I believe New Hampshire just reached theirs, and Vermont is pretty close to filling theirs up. And the legislatures, from my understanding, I'm not as tuned in as I'd like to be, is working on expanding that net metering, which allows the utilities to buy back your power during the summer, actually creating credits, which you can then use in the winter when you have less sunlight.
Oh, that's how it works.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
And so net metering can turn out to be a wonderful cost savings, but please contact your local utility and the state and see what their limits and their amounts are.
So if you get it over a certain limit, then you cannot.
It depends on whether they're full or not. They take participants into the metering program based upon the kilowatts they're expected to generate in their system. Then the system takes the kilowatts back into them, buys them from them, and then redistributes back when the homeowner or even a small business can use the utility. The power.
But you know, everybody's saying renewable energy and that type of thing. Solar being that. I would think it would encourage more people to do solar. But yet, if you're going to limit the amount that they're going to take back, it almost is a deterrent.
In a way, absolutely. Especially if you can't net meter, that means you're not getting reimbursed at a level which can make it more cost efficient for you. So again, check with a solar provider that you're using. There are many reputable ones in the area. And also check with your utilities and see what they're doing about that at this time.
The other thing is health benefits. We're talking on commercial now. That let's say a manufacturer is offering programs to their employees. And yet, if they offer what we call the Cadillac, they get fined.
That's correct.
And which I can't understand, because if you're willing to to give the Cadillac program to your employees, it's an incentive to stay and that type of thing.
That hasn't been fully explained to me, Paul. You usually reward, and let's be honest, it's your higher level executives in a company that tend to get this type of plan, or it's the owner of a one owner business that gets this type of plan. And I've been given no rationale as to why it's taxable. I mean, you want to have health insurance, and if you can provide premium health insurance, I say that's good. But we'll let the legislators sort that out. As far as I know, that tax is not going to be repealed at this time. It's still going to be in place. So we'll see if Congress can react this year. Of course, it is an election year, and things move slowly in an election year.
They do. And the other issue, and this is a New Hampshire thing now, is with partnerships taking salaries up to a certain limit to lower their tax rate.
Well, absolutely. Partnerships and LLCs in the state of New Hampshire there's a magic line on your form when you file in the state of New Hampshire called compensation for personal services. And that compensation generally has to be at a market rate. And what that means is if your business has a wonderful year and you make $500,000 if you're fortunate enough to, you just can't take $500,000 in salary. So in New Hampshire, we have two levels of tax. One called the business profits tax, and the business enterprise tax is the second tax. And the business profits tax is 8.5%, which the state of New Hampshire is actually trying to lower over the next 2 to 3 years. This isn't widely known. The legislature is trying to roll that back a percentage point to 1.5% over the next 3 years. But regardless of that, the goal is to not be taxed with the business profits tax. And in an LLC and a partnership, you can assign a salary to the partner or partners, and then that will lower their business profits tax. But now that's salary for the business enterprise tax. It can be a quite tricky calculation there.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest things that affected the business community in New Hampshire when they put what we call the business franchise tax, because it's based on payroll.
Correct. Well, you can thank former Governor Benson for that one. He really wanted that implemented. Yes.
And, you could be losing money, you could have, bottom line, but because it's based on payroll, you're going to be paying anyway.
Right, payroll, interest, and dividends. And if you're a highly leveraged company with interest, that goes into the calculation, which seems a little unfair. But that's the way it's been now for, I'd say, 15, almost 20 years in the state of New Hampshire. So it's going to continue. And see your tax practitioner to help you lower those tax bills.
So I am an individual, and I'm going to be doing my taxes. Any major changes in there that I didn't see last year? Or?
Well, no, everything's pretty similar. The income brackets haven't changed significantly. There's no brand new credits that have come out. The standard credits are in earned income credit, for example, for low income folks. And the dependency deductions are still the same. The one neat thing about the budget getting passed is that it reinstated the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which is an up to $2,500 tax credit for your children going to college.
Oh.
That was supposed to be repealed or taken out when they didn't have a 2015 budget in place. And then that got put in back in November, December when they ratified the new budget.
So you don't anticipate, you're saying the budget is balanced, or?
Well, it's not balanced.
Not balanced, no, it never is.
But the budget has the tax rules in place for the next 2 years, so
Yeah.
you can expect relative calm in Washington on this issue. However, that doesn't mean the state houses are still not looking for revenues. For example, Vermont is probably on the cusp of passing marijuana legislation, and they're predicting that'll bring in anywhere between $20 to possibly $50 million of revenue into the state. It's going to be big, but we'll have to see how that works out. So states are looking for revenue sources all the time.
Would that be based on the tax of the sales?
That's
of those,
correct. Yes, it's a
that?
proposed 25% tax on those sales. So that means if you buy $100 worth of goods, you're paying $125 with the tax.
Wow.
Absolutely, it's a big money raiser. Colorado in its first quarter received 30 or 40 million, if my recollection is correct, just in sales tax revenue for the state. 1 quarter. It's amazing what a little money can do to a legislature and get it in the right direction, especially with the way most states have been running deficits in the last few years.
Just, in fact, over the weekend, there was another news story that there were more IRS returns hacked than anticipated, or the first reported by IRS, people using so is it better to mail your return in, or when you go through your practitioner and they put it in on?
Well, you may or may not be aware, Paul. I believe it's 75 to 80% of all returns are now electronically filed. In fact, for years at the White River Post Office, I used to do the tax day show.
Oh.
And I would be there until 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Well, they close at 5:30 now because that rush is no longer there. It's much better from an efficiency and an error standpoint if you electronically file. When you talk about identity theft, actually, the state of Florida is probably the king of identity theft right now. And so when you think about that, what happens is they will actually, the crooks have to be somewhat ingenious here. They have to get a social security number. They set up a fake business. They can actually create fake W-2, send them into the IRS, and then they file a return. By the time, the W-2s have so much withholding, it creates a refund. So by the time the IRS matches it up, oftentimes that money is gone. So what's happened now is that there's a step in place with the IRS called the identity theft form. It's called the identity theft affidavit, and I believe it's form 14187. And you can actually request an ID number with the IRS, and it's a 6-digit PIN that belongs to you. And every year you file, even electronically, you submit that PIN, and they know it's you, and they reassign a PIN to you every year.
Huh, interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And then we read too about shortages in the personnel at IRS, which may not be too bad either.
Well, it depends on what side of the aisle you're
Yeah.
on, Paul, but there's been about a 25% drop in employees at the IRS over the past 5 to 10 years. What that's meant to most folks is the average audit rate used to be about 1 in every 90 to 95 returns would get audited. Well, as of now, it's about 1 out of every 120. And so the reduction in staff has meant fewer audits. That still doesn't mean you aren't eligible for an audit. You still have to take the steps to protect yourself. And the IRS has programs in place which catch egregious errors on returns. So you still have to follow the rules, but right now it is a little less likely that you'll get audited. And they're still going after the high income folks. So that's why you're hearing, for those of you folks at home who've been paying attention to the presidential primary season, you'll notice that there's a call for tax returns. Well, a lot of those folks have high level income tax returns, and you're going to see a lot of review of those. And I bet the IRS has taken their fair share of look at both of them.
At all of them, yeah. Would I be less likely to be audited if I go to Rich Paul, CPA, have him prepare my taxes, than Paul Boucher doing his own taxes?
Well, again, that depends on your activities and the level of risk. For example, sole proprietorships, that is a Schedule C on your tax return where you report income or loss from your own business, that has the highest audit rate of all. Absolutely.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
About 1 out of every 50 to 70 returns get reviewed there. If you're a W-2 and you own a home with some itemized deductions, that is, you have mortgage, interest, and real estate taxes, and you really don't have a lot else going on, the odds of you getting audited are actually pretty slim. You just got to make sure you're taking your proper deductions, and that's where a seasoned tax preparer can really help you.
Can help you in that regard. So.
Absolutely. Now, one other service, if I may, Paul, I'd like to mention, is that one of the services that I volunteered at, in fact, I just got my 15-year PIN doing it, is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program over at the Senior Center here in Lebanon.
Oh, excellent.
It's called the VITA program, VITA, or TCE, Tax Compliance for the Elderly. But don't let that fool you. You don't have to be elderly or or be low income to get into the program. Anybody who has a fairly simplistic return, that is W-2s, they may itemize some deductions, you can't have rentals or a business, and you need some help with your return, it's done for free over at the Senior Center Tuesdays from 9 to 2. And that phone number is 603-448-4213.
Perfect. I'm glad you mentioned that. So that service is available to any
Absolutely, and
seniors
it's
that want-
available through the last. Of course, for those of you, did you know filing date is April 18th this year?
Yeah, there's a holiday or
April 18th, yeah, and April 15th this year, Friday, is Emancipation Day in the District of Columbia. So Washington D.C. has stated that since everybody has a day off in D.C., well, the whole country gets an extra 3 days to file this year.
Yeah.
So you have until April 18th. In fact, if you're in Maryland, I believe you get until the 19th. There's another holiday on the 18th. Now, for those of you wondering, what about Patriots Day, which is April 18th this year? You're not so lucky in Massachusetts because all the returns go to Connecticut. And Connecticut is open on Patriots Day. So
on that particular
for you in Mass, it's still April 18th.
Yeah. And so should somebody, the procrastinators out there should, have a extension. You still have to pay, though, isn't it? When you do an
Yes, right.
extension?
An extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay, according to the IRS. And so you have to at least do a rough calculation of your taxes, make your best approximation, and that has to be paid in. And that's not only a federal rule, that is a state rule.
Question I've been asked quite a bit here at the office, people call, where can I find a tax form? Post office used to have them.
Correct.
You could get your 1040, your 1040A, and the schedules, other schedules. Can't find it.
Right. Banks used to have them as
Banks
well
used
too.
to have, yeah.
Right. Well, now everything is online. If you want a form, you got to go to www.irs.gov. That's Gov, and just find the forms on there and download them. Most people actually the forms now, if you can, and you have Adobe on your computer, they're actually fillable. You can fill them and save them and work on them and keep them online. You don't just have to print them out and do them by pencil anymore. You can actually do that. Now, there are other reputable programs that actually have a free tax filing if you want to do an EZ form. You can go to programs like TaxSlayer. TurboTax has an intro form that's also free if you want. But again, I'd probably urge you to take advantage of the local VITA program. It's not only at the Lebanon Center, at the Senior Center in Lebanon, it's also, you can, I believe it's at St. Paul's Church over in White River as well. So go online to your VITA, just type in VITA and sites, SITES, and it'll have New Hampshire and Vermont sites that you can locate for that.
So if you decide to go down to senior center, they'll get on and, I'm not a computer person.
Right. They'll get on, they'll file it for you electronically, they'll take care of it. You'll walk out with a packet by someone who's a seasoned preparer. And that's a great service, and it's absolutely free. Nothing needed. No donations, no anything. It's a part of what we do for the Senior Center and for the City of Lebanon.
Yeah, excellent. That's good information. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, Rich, been a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you. And Paul, I want to say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate it much. Thank you.
Thank you. Another program of Points of Interest brought to you by the Lebanon Area Chamber of Commerce. And we'll be back again next week with another program. Until then.